Good afternoon, everyone. It is Wednesday, December the 2nd, 2020. I did it in the last live broadcast. For some reason, I want to say December the 3rd. It is Wednesday, December the 2nd, 2020. It is currently 3:40 p.m. Central Time. It's already 3:40 p.m. Central Time. That's crazy. I feel like I've already been here like 5 hours and I've only done one live broadcast. So that is no good. So I've got a lot to do. So we got to get busy. In this episode, I'm going to be looking at one specific issue, but I want to take an opportunity at the beginning to kind of look forward to 2021, moving to 2021. I mean, it's hard to believe we're already in December. I don't know. Is it? I feel like that I shouldn't say that. In one way, it feels like, wow, we're already in December of 2020. But in another way, it's like, wow, we're only in December. I felt like we've already been through like 5 years this year. So I don't know. Maybe it's just based on a specific moment in time, how you may feel. But whatever you may feel about it, we're in December of 2020. And we're moving forward fast, and at a fast pace. We're moving forward to 2021. And I think that we need to take a few minutes and look at some things that as Christians and as the church, I've got three topics at the top of my mind right now that's going to become big issues moving forward through the rest of 2020 and to the first part of 2021. Now, as we get into 2021, 3 or 4 months in, there'll probably be other issues, but we've got three big issues that I think we need to deal with and we need to talk about. And we've been talking about two of them for a very long time, but they're going to remain an issue going into 2021. All right, here we go. I'm going to save the third one for last, because the third one is what we're going to be talking about in this episode. But here are two of them, and I think you could probably already tell me what they are, but we'll go with the most obvious. Number one, the big thing that's coming up that's going to cause lots of discussion and debates and arguments amongst Christians and what Christians are going to do and not do. Are they going to argue that it's against their, I don't know how they're going to argue, but there's going to be a lot of discussion about the COVID-19 vaccine. If you listen to a lot of Christian podcasts right now, they're telling you the COVID-19 vaccine, basically, it's mark of the beast. It's going to, rewrite your DNA. Basically, all of these, apocalyptic kinds of scenarios. So basically, don't get the COVID-19 vaccine. We had a Catholic bishop come out saying you can't get it and making claims about it that, based off our research, is not accurate and not true. But there are Christians making all kinds of claims about that. And that's going to become an issue moving forward. Once the vaccine is available to the general public here in the United States of America, then it's going to be Christians are going to have opinions, and you kind of know how it works within Christianity. Christians have opinions, they have thoughts, they think this is the right way, and if their church doesn't think the way they think, then they have a tendency to go find another church. I don't want it to lead to church splits. I hope that's will only show up in extreme cases, but I can't say it's not going to happen because Christians will split over pretty much anything. So that's going to be an issue that we're going to have to be talking about. I've already provided you a lot of information about the COVID-19 vaccine, trying to alleviate certain concerns, and most importantly, trying to offer clear and accurate information so that you can make the best decision for yourself and for your family. But just as people are trying to figure that out, please demonstrate grace. Please pursue truth, and please avoid sharing and putting forth false information and fraudulent information. If you're going to be out there putting forth fraudulent information, then do me a favor, reconsider your Christianity, because that is not consistent with your Christianity. You're supposed to be speaking truth and put away lying. So don't be bearing false witness and don't do that. All right. But that's going to be an issue. I mean, I keep listening to Christian podcasts and hearing all kinds of crazy ideas about the COVID-19 vaccine. So that we're moving towards that, and it's going to become an issue. All right. Number two, the election results. Now, the reason I have to continue to mention this is because just this afternoon, when I was driving here to Victory Baptist Church, I turned on Christian radio, and guess what I heard for about 20 minutes? The election was stolen. The election was stolen. This is all a fraud. This is all a fraud. The proof is overwhelming. If anyone denies the proof that they are a liar, they are deceived. This election was stolen, and we need Christians to stand up, and we should stop going along and just, basically just nonstop. And you're just like, whoa, when, Christians, look, we're in December. And at some point, this all has to come to an end. And how are Christians going to handle it moving forward? How are Christians going to handle it? Let's just say, based off everything that we currently know and the way things are moving, and considering how many court cases the Trump administration have already lost, their way forward is not looking really good. All right, but let's just say that no matter, you may think it's a slam dunk and Trump is going to ultimately win the election. Okay, you can think that, but based off everything we currently see, Trump is not the election is not going to be overturned and handed to Trump. It's over. It's done. He's not going to win. Biden's going to be the next president of the United States of America. How are Christians going to handle all of this moving forward? Are they going to just continue to argue and say the election was stolen? Are they just going, how are they going to handle this and how they're going to move forward? According to Christian radio, I just don't think this topic is not going away. It just seems like they keep taking up hour after hour of airtime talking about the election results. And it doesn't matter what you turn on. You turn on Rush Limbaugh, you turn on Glenn Beck, you turn on Sean Hannity, you turn on Fox News, you turn on Newsmax, you turn on Alex Jones, and it's like, the election was stolen, the election was stolen, the election was stolen. We have all this proof. It's undeniable. You can't ignore it. And the election's going to be overturned, and Trump is going to be the next president, and he's going to serve his second term. And then you turn on other news sources, and they're like, it's over. It's finished. It's done. Well, Christians seem to be really caught up in all of this, and I don't know. I don't know how things are going to move forward, but it's a question that we have to ask ourselves. All right. So COVID-19 vaccine, the election results. And here is a third major topic moving forward. It's already been talked a lot about. In fact, I have a number of links right here in front of me from Christian ministries, Christian websites, Christian publications talking about this issue. And I think it's an issue that we definitely need to think about. And as Christians, as churches, we need to see, how are we going to move forward? All right. So here is the issue. If you've seen the title of this episode, you already know what it is. What is religious liberty going to look like in 2021? What are we going to face? Is there going to be a very conscious effort to strip away religious liberty, religious freedoms from millions of people who profess to be Christians and people maybe of other faiths? Is there going to be a calculated attack upon religious liberty and religious freedom in 2021? And if you say yes, when is it going to start? Is it going to start right in January? Is it going to be a couple of months in? Is 2021 going to be a big year where Christians start losing religious liberty? Or is that all hyperbole and are Christians exaggerating this to no end? And when 2021 is over, there's really going to be very few changes. Now, which is the correct way of looking at it? It's going to be massive. It's going to be a massive all-out war on Christianity, or nothing really is going to happen. Now, typically the truth is usually somewhere in the middle. You take the two extremes, usually the truth is somewhere in the middle. But there is a current situation that a lot of people are talking about, right? And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to play a clip from Christian radio, let you hear how they discussed it. They only mention it briefly. They don't spend much time with it because I think they immediately transition from this to saying that COVID-19 is the biggest hoax in the history of mankind. Then they go off on a COVID-19 as a hoax kind of rant. But they bring this subject up, and when they brought it up, I had to look up some articles. I did a Google search and found countless articles. So there was a lot of there's a lot of talk in the Christian world about it. And it has everything to do with religious liberty, the religious liberty for Christians, specifically focused on, it appears, on Christian schools, Christian colleges, Christian universities, really going after them Now, exactly what they're going to go after, exactly what's going to happen, should we be worried? Should we be concerned? Or should we just be informed and wait and see? Well, I'm going to let you determine. I'm just going to give you some information, and you can tell me what you think, all right? Here we go. This aired on American Family Radio. I think it was yesterday. I don't even know what day it was. It was yesterday or the day before. Today is Wednesday. Yeah, so it was either Monday or Tuesday. All right, here we go. And I have this queued up to right at the spot where they start talking about it. Here we go.
You know, I've started a new segment of the program called Joe Biden's America, where I'm trying to give you a little bit of a preview of what's going to happen to the country that you love and that I love if Joe Biden is sworn in as our president on January 21st. And one of them has to do with what's going to happen to religious liberty. And Jeff, we're going to have you lead off with Joe Biden's America with a little bit of information you discovered.
Yeah, do you remember when they promised that this would never happen? After all, love is love. There would be no retaliation against Christians or religious agencies, institutions. Well, the Human Rights Commission campaign has now submitted a 27-page brief to President-elect or the possible President Biden, urging him to pull accreditation from Christian colleges and schools if they don't comply with their demands, and that they're basically calling Christian schools discriminatory and anti-science because they discriminate against the LGBT community in their colleges with their demands, with their requirements and their rules.
Go ahead.
No, well, effectively, what they're doing is this is an undisguised attempt to shut down any semblance of a Christian college or university that would have the audacity to operate from a Christian worldview. You know, this is a direct attack in plain language.
Yeah. Well, you know, and the reason they hate Christianity is because of the first 6 letters in that word.
Yeah.
They hate Christianity because it is all about Jesus Christ. And Jesus Christ arouses a vitriolic hatred in them, and a vitriolic hatred toward anybody who believes in Christ, who would publicly profess faith in Christ, who would defend the teachings of Christ in public. They hate us. They want to get rid of us. And this is a perfect example. They want to wipe us off the face of the map. So it'd be like taking the First Amendment and just ripping it out of the Constitution, wrapping it up in a little tiny ball and setting it on fire and throwing it away. Now, you and I know that if they tried this with President Trump, wouldn't get to first base.
Right.
But they'll get somewhere with Joe Biden. Joe Biden will take this thing to the wall.
Yeah, we've seen every indication that he would do and follow through on this. And this would mean that Christian schools really are no longer any Christian schools if they have to comply with the rules of the LGBT.
Yeah. So again, that's something. That's Joe Biden's America coming to a country near you.
All right. Those are some massive claims. They make some big claims that basically this could be the end of Christian schools. They're coming for us. They want to wipe us off the map. I mean, you could kind of argue. I mean, at least my initial feelings when I heard this was, okay, I think this is a little hyperbolic. I think maybe this is a little much, but I could be wrong. So let's dig in and see if we can get to the bottom of this, all right? Now, I don't have all the research in front of me. I'm going to ask all of you, my listeners, to help me out here. Let's try to take this apart. Let's try to look into this. Let's try to be thoughtful. Let's try to be accurate. Let's try to think this through. I think there are I think there's probably a number of factors here, and I think sometimes when some of these issues arise, Christians are not. How can I say this? They're not always as honest maybe as they should be about the situation, that sometimes these situations are very nuanced and we have to look at all the different perspectives. In other words, let me say it this way. Not whenever a situation arises like this where someone is supposedly going after Christianity and we're going to start saying they're persecuted and we're being persecuted and they're coming from us. Sometimes I think maybe we have a tendency to have a little bit of a persecution complex, but I think sometimes we don't ever stop to go, wait a minute. what exactly are they trying to do? Exactly what are they saying? And exactly what is their motivation? In other words, we've got to try to figure out exactly what they're trying to do and why they're trying to do it and be honest with that. Now, we still may feel like it's a threat against us, and it may be, but I just want us to just take a deep breath and let's look at this in a calm fashion, all right? Let's see what we can find, all right? I just pulled up, I just did a basic Google search, and I have now here a number of articles. We're just going to look at some of these articles and see if there's any clue here, if there's any hint here of what's going on, and maybe there's something contained in this information that maybe Christians, we need to look at ourselves first. But we'll see, all right? Let's take a look here. First article was published November the 20th, right? November the 20th. And here is the headline. LGBTQ group calls on Biden to pull accreditation from religious schools. All right, so they seem to be calling on Biden for him to pull accreditation from religious schools, to go after religious schools who are accredited and take that accreditation from them. All right. And clearly it has something to do with those schools and their views or different things in regards to LGBTQ. All right. Let's see. So we have religious schools who are accredited, who now they want their accreditation pulled. Let's see why. The nation's largest LGBTQ advocacy group. So supposedly this is the largest LGBTQ group in the nation. So that means obviously this is not some just insignificant group. This is a large group, I'm assuming with having some influence and some power. So that makes me at least go, whoa, wait a minute. Okay, what is going on here? Let's work our way through this. The nation's largest LGBTQ advocacy group is urging Joe Biden to strip the accreditation of religious schools and universities if they refuse to adopt non-discrimination policies and scientific curriculum requirements that the group deems acceptable. All right. Now, this is a little concerning. So they're going to a religious university, a religious school, and say, you will adopt non-discrimination policies and scientific curriculum requirements. So they want to place certain requirements in the curriculum that the school has to teach, and non-discrimination policies. Now, we need to understand what non-discrimination policies are they referring to, and we need to know exactly what curriculum requirements they want to be introduced, and try to figure out exactly what they're trying to do here, because we want to be fair. And again, these are that the group deems acceptable. So basically, the group is saying you're going to conduct the way we want you to. You're going to conduct yourselves the way we want you to conduct yourselves, and if you don't, you lose your accreditation. We get to make that determination. Okay, that's a little heavy-handed. So let's see what they have to say here. Next paragraph. The influential Human Rights Campaign, sometimes you'll see it abbreviated as HRC. The Human Rights Campaign called for the move in its recently released Blueprint for Positive Change 2020. Now, I believe here, let me look at yes, I have a PDF file. It's 24 pages. It's called the Human Rights Campaign Blueprint for Positive Change 2020. I will create a post on the theologycentral.net blog, theologycentral.net blog, and I will put a link so that you can read the PDF file for yourself, all right? And you should read it for yourself. Don't believe what I tell you is in it. Don't believe what Christian radio tells you is in it. Don't believe it what the media tells you is in it. We need to read it for ourselves to know exactly what they are calling for. Now, we're being told, we've got two sources, Christian radio in this article, that they're calling for the accreditation to be pulled from Christian schools because of unless they implement non-discrimination policies and some kind of science curriculum requirement. All right? So exactly what they mean. Hopefully this document will prove this. So right now I'm not going to go back to the document. I'm going to go back to this article. At some point we may look at the document itself, but I'm going to make it available on the theologycentral.net blog. All right? So here we go. The influential Human Rights Campaign, sometimes abbreviated as HRC, called for the move in its recently released Blueprint for Positive Change 2020, which assumes a Biden victory in the presidential election and outlines specific measures to reverse the policies of the Trump administration. All right, so Trump did his thing. Now they want to reverse that. Okay? Now, currently, under the Higher Education Opportunity Act, accrediting agencies are told to consistently apply and enforce standards that respect the stated mission of the institution of higher education, including religious missions. This allows Christian institutions to adhere to their biblical principles when making admissions and employment decisions while still receiving federal financial assistance. Now, here we go. All right, here we go. This is the part the Christian Radio didn't mention. These are institutions, it appears, who are receiving federal financial assistance. Well, if you're going to receive money from the government, guess what comes with that? Guess what comes from that? You ultimately end up possibly being controlled by that government. If you want the government to give you their money, some kind of federal financial assistance, if you want that money, well, then if they say, wait a minute, for you to get this money, you've got to do A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, whatever, then you've got to do it. Now, if you don't want the government money, then if you don't want the government control, don't take the government money. Be a religious educational institution that does not take money from the government. Now, you could say, well, this financial assistance could be in regards to helping students go there, getting financial aid from the government. Okay, if that is part of the problem, then the religious institution, why don't you develop a system where you try to allow people, you try to come up with a way to help the students? How about you try to find a way to do this? Maybe you find a way to reduce your tuition. Maybe you come up with ways to do that. How about your religious institution? If it's sponsored by a denomination, that denomination can take up a collection from all the churches within their denomination to create up a scholarship fund for the schools so that the schools can help people who are of lower income and need financial assistance where you don't have to rely on the government. If you don't want the government's assistance in any way, shape, or form, and again, if you take money from the government in any way, shape, or form, these are the problems you end up. So it doesn't sound like there's like, hey, there's a religious school, go after them. It sounds like, no, there's a religious school who takes money gets financial assistance from the government. Then they're like, now the government should tell you what to do. This is always a problem and always a possible thing of concern. Now, so I don't know all the details there, but I just want to that's an important statement. All right. So it appears that currently under the Higher Educational Opportunity Act, accrediting agencies are told to consistently apply and enforce standards that respect the stated mission of the institution of higher education, including religious missions. This allows Christian institutions to adhere to their biblical principles while making admissions and employment decisions while still receiving federal financial assistance. Well, again, if you're going to get money from the government, you're going to get lots of control. Don't take their money. That's a possible solution. Let's continue. HRC, HRC is the Human Rights Campaign, is pressing the Department of Education to issue a regulation that would essentially mean abandoning biblical standards for teaching, hiring, admissions, housing, and student life, said Albert Moeller Jr., president of the Southern Baptist Theological Seminary in Louisville, Kentucky. I've not seen any document like this before, he said. The Human Rights Campaign is effectively calling for religious colleges and schools to be coerced into the sexual revolution or stripped of accreditation. He added in clear text for all the world to see, the Human Rights Campaign summons the Biden administration to deny accreditation or at the very least to facilitate the denial of accreditation to Christian institutions, Christian colleges and universities, and for that matter, any other religious institution or school that does not meet the demands of the LGBTQ orthodoxy. It would mean that Christian schools are no longer Christian. Now, a couple of things. First, I have heard or seen nothing saying Biden is even thinking about this or that Biden will do this. Haven't heard or seen anything like that. If we get there, I'll obviously report it. This is an LGBTQ group. They're making these demands. I'm not going to say Biden. I don't know what Biden will do. I cannot speak for Biden or judge his motives. I'm going to go back here to the actual PDF file. All right, and I'm looking here. I'm looking at some things here of their recommendations. I'm looking at the PDF file, and I want to see if they're just simply going after schools that receive some kind of money. So here I'm looking. It's a large document, and let's see. Here's some of their recommendations. Let's see here. Okay. I'm looking here. Commit to diversity and hiring for the federal government. Okay, I'm looking. Okay, it says, eliminate discrimination. This is on page 5 of the PDF file. Eliminate discrimination against beneficiaries in charitable choice and faith-based initiatives. In recent years, the federal government has increasingly turned to religious organizations to provide vital services to vulnerable populations. These include substance abuse treatment, early childhood education, food and nutrition assistance, job training, and homeless shelters. Faith-based groups often have expertise in these areas as well as strong ties to the communities they serve. The Charitable Choice Regulations Guide, Charitable Choice Regulations guide how religious organizations operate and engage with federally funded services and programs. So once again, here are groups wanting to do charitable work, but they're working with the federal government. They're either being funded by the federal government or receiving support from the federal government. So what they're going to come along and say, hey, you're basically working with the federal government and you need to follow certain rules and regulations. And these are the rules and regulations that we want you to follow. Again, it seems to be things that are that religious institutions that are somehow connected to the federal government. Let's see here. I'm continuing to read all of the different things that they are suggesting. They got things for the military, Department of Education. All right, now we get to this. Ensure non-discrimination policies and science-based curricula are not undermined by religious exemptions to accreditation standards. All right, so this has to be the part everyone's referencing. Here's the part everyone's referencing. So we're going to actually read it here live on the air, and then you can determine what they're trying to say here. Okay, so let me read it again. This is page 8 of the document. It is under the heading Department of Education, and here's what this LGBTQ group is calling for the Biden administration to do. They want the Biden administration to ensure non-discrimination policies and science-based curricula are not undermined by religious exemptions to accreditation standards. Language regarding accreditation of religious institutions of higher education and the Higher Education Opportunity Act could be interpreted to require, accrediting bodies to accredit religious institutions that discriminate or do not meet science-based curricula standards. The Department of Education should issue a regulation clarifying that this provision, which requires accreditation agencies to respect the standard mission of religious institutions, does not require of institutions does not require the accreditation of religious institutions that do not meet neutral accreditation standards, including non-discrimination policies and scientific curriculum requirements. Now, they don't mention receiving federal funding here. They don't mention that here. And I'm looking. Yeah, they don't offer much help here. Let me go to another article. I'm going to go to the one Dr. Albert Mohler wrote, because I want to know exactly to make sure I'm understanding this correctly. Here's what he wrote on November the 18th. A direct threat to Christian education. The Human Rights Campaign demands that the Biden administration deny accreditation to Christian colleges and schools. Again, the headlines are like, hey, if you're a Christian college or a Christian school, they're coming for you and they're going to take your accreditation and you better do something. Okay, I want to make, is this just like any random Christian school or is it one's connected to some kind of federal funding? That's what we're trying to clarify. The PDF file doesn't really make that distinction, which is a little troubling. So let's see if this article offers any insight here. All right. The first paragraph begins this way. The accreditation of Christian colleges and schools has just been directly targeted by the nation's most influential LGBTQ organization. The Human Rights Campaign has recently issued a document directed at the incoming administration entitled Blueprint for Positive Change 2020. The blueprint demands that President-elect Biden adopt a legislative agenda and enact specific executive orders that are in line with the LGBTQ movement, a movement that Biden pledged to champion. Contained within its pages are perhaps some of the most alarming demands that threaten religious liberty, and the mainstream media has given little to no attention to the dimension of the report. The blueprint is not ambiguous. It makes detailed policy positions and recommendations department by department. That is true. It definitely makes recommendations department by department, and I will agree it's not very ambiguous. What I'm trying to figure out is how does this play out in real, if these policies are accepted, what happens to a religious school that receives no federal funding? Are they going to be targeted or are they not on the list? Then this comes down to, well, do we want federal money or do we not want federal money? And that's the decision it could come down to. And well, we can let's just go through this and see what happens here. All right. So they say it's not ambiguous. It makes detailed policy positions and recommendations department by department for the Biden administration to deploy once the president-elect assumes office. From the Department of Agriculture to the Department of Health and Human Services, the Human Rights Campaign demands the enactment of policies to prohibit what is identified as discrimination. In the Department of State, for example, the blueprint urges the department to include a non-binary gender marker and modernize existing requirements for updating gender markers on United States passports. Such policy proposals would upend a system specifically designed to quickly and accurately identify individuals for the purpose of safety and security. Hence, this is why when reporting a crime or a missing person, a police officer will ask you if the suspect or missing person is a male or female. Passports are designed for specificity in order to promote a safe travel through the United States and around the world. A policy likely to be undermined by a passport that includes non-binary gender markers and is modernized for our cultural moment. All this contributes to the elimination of gender or sex as a meaningful category, which is not accidental. It is the intention to remake humanity. The passport will have to be redefined. Okay, that does raise lots of questions. Does it put us at risk? Does it destroy security? And it is a cultural thing right now. Let's just destroy there aren't just male and female. People are whatever they want to be. They're not this, they're not that. Okay. That's the world's headed that way. And look, Christians are going to have to realize this. And I think it's important. The world is moving that direction. Our job is to call them to repentance and faith in Christ. right? You can sit there and argue all day, hey, you're not what you claim to be. And you can try to tell them that and try to tell them that and try to tell them that. They need salvation first. Even if you convince them to believe a certain way about their gender, you don't accomplish anything because they need salvation. So salvation first is, to me, the Christian perspective. But it does raise some concerns, right? Now, will Biden do any of these things? That's a long ways away down the road. I don't know if he will. If he does, that would be, now the passport can have, is the person flying male or female? Well, we don't know. Do we reach a point where, hey, a cop, you can't ask if they're male or female. You can't do that, because now we don't know if anyone's a male or female. So now it's going to be more difficult to identify a suspect. And, well, this, what kind of problems does this create? It's a worthy topic to discuss. But of course, what we're looking for is when it comes to the education and schools. That's what we're looking for in this episode. All right. I'm looking here. I'm going down. He's got a lot here. Oh, here we go. He goes, okay, there we go. I was getting ready to read this paragraph, and then I looked up and saw that it really begins above. All right, so here we go. According to Albert Mohler, the most shocking demand in the report is found under the section for the Department of Education. The Human Rights Campaign demands the Biden administration to ensure that non-discrimination policies and science-based curriculum are not undermined by religious exemption to accreditation standards. That is sinister. I've not seen any document like this before. The Human Rights Campaign is effectively calling for religious colleges and schools to be coerced into sexual revolution or stripped of accreditation. The blueprint states, language regarding accreditation of religious institutions of higher education and the Higher Education Opportunity Act should be interpreted to require accrediting bodies to accredit religious institutions that discriminate or do not meet science-based standards. The Department of Education should issue a regulation clarifying that this provision, which requires accreditation agencies to respect the stated mission of religious institutions, does not require the accreditation of religious institutions that do not meet neutral accreditation standards, including non-discrimination policies and scientific curriculum requirements. In terms of accreditation, this is an atomic bomb. That's what Albert Mohler says. This is an atomic bomb. Again, and it's true. If you pass some of these rules, you're going to basically just destroy these religious schools. Now, again, is it religious schools that are receiving federal funding? That's the nuanced part that I want to make sure we can find a conclusive answer. Let's see if he talks about this, all right? He goes on to say, in clear text, for all the world to see, the Human Rights Campaign summons the Biden administration to deny accreditation, or at the very least to facilitate the denial of accreditation to Christian institutions, Christian colleges, and universities, and for that matter, any other religious institution or school that does not meet the demands of the LGBTQ orthodoxy. This would mean abandoning biblical standards for teaching, hiring, admissions, housing, and student life. It would mean that Christian schools are no longer Christian. This is insidious from top to bottom. Schools that will not get in line with the moral revolution, if the Biden administration acts as demanded, will be denied their accreditation. We must not miss the language. Accreditation should be revoked for those who do not meet the LGBT non-discrimination standards or science-based curricula standards. Now, it goes on to say, wait just a minute. The Human Rights Campaign is not known for any particular agenda on the creation evolution front, nor is the group preoccupied with particle physics. The Human Rights Campaign is targeting issues of sexual orientation and gender identity, cloaking them in the language of science. This is undisguised effort to require Christian schools and colleges to abandon biblical authority or lose accreditation. This is an open threat to the ability of Christian colleges and schools to operate by Christian conviction. This is an outright attempt to eliminate religious freedom from Christian schools or for any religious school that refuses to bow to the moral revolutionaries at the Human Rights Campaign. If the Human Rights Campaign achieves its policy goals, religious institutions will either be coerced into capitulation over fundamental religious and theological doctrines, or they will be marginalized. This kind of policy goes even further than, for example, attempts to strip federal funding and student aid from institutions that will not surrender to the LGBTQ movement. Indeed, accreditation is a more basic and pervasive threat. Those colleges or universities would not be permitted to participate in the GI Bill. Students would not be allowed to transfer their credits, nor would they be allowed to apply for graduate study at other institutions. The threat to accreditation is more basic than the threat to federal funding. It would threaten even institutions that do not receive a single penny of government funding. Now that is where things get serious. Now that's what we were looking for. According to Albert Mohler, it would threaten even institutions that do not receive a single penny of government funding. Now that is problematic. Hey, we don't take any money from the government. You still have to do this. You still have to do these things and teach things this way. And if you don't, then you can't even be an accredited institution of higher learning. Yeah, that's a little concerning. They go on to say, this is an undisguised attempt to shut down any semblance of a Christian college or university that would possess the audacity to operate from a Christian worldview. This comes with chilling specificity and clarity. We dare not miss what is at stake. All right, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put the document from the Human Rights Campaign and a blog article on theologycentral.net. I want you to look at it for yourself. I want you to know what's in it, all right? I want you to read it carefully. It's 27 pages, and I know what people will do. I don't want to read all of that. Who cares? Okay, well, you don't care, and then when 2021, we're facing some major threat against religious liberty, don't act like you care then, all right? Don't care later. You need to care now. We need to know. And you want to care so that you're not misled, all right? Now, Albert Mohler seems to say that this could go to a threat even to an institution that does not receive federal funding. Now, that puts it in a whole new category if that is true. If that is true, that is concerning. All right? Because now that would be like, no, you're not protected. There's nothing to protect you. That means they're coming for you. It's one thing that you're taking money from the government and then they come from you. Well, okay, well then, hey, stop taking money from the government. Leave me alone. Let's move on. Let's move on. If restrictions come with it, then eliminate the thing that's connecting you that makes those restrictions possible. That's something that we can think of. But if this just goes for any religious university or school, that's a serious thing, and we need to take it seriously and we need to look into it. So, moving forward into 2021, we got three things to look for. The debate over the COVID-19 vaccine, that's going to continue. People are going to make all kinds of crazy, accusations, and we've got to try to find the truth, and we got to think about that carefully. The election results, Christians are continuing to fight about it. At some point, that's got to come to an end. Once it does, let's say Biden is made the president, he's sworn in. How are Christians going to respond to that moving forward in a biblical, godly way? And then third, possible threats to religious liberty. Now, again, I want to make it clear. The Biden administration, Biden and any of the team that he's currently got working with him, they did not produce this document. There is nothing that I've heard or seen saying that they support any of the claims in the document. And I don't know what things they will adopt or they will not adopt. I just know that as Christians, it's our responsibility to be looking at where the world is headed and that we continue to be focused on what we're called to do, which is preach the gospel, the Great Commission, to glorify God, and be prepared that if more and more, let's say religious liberty starts being stripped away, then we've got to operate and do our job to fulfill the Great Commission even during a time of great persecution. Whatever the circumstances are around us does not change the scriptural mandate of our mission. We have a mission whether the circumstances are favorable or unfavorable to that mission. The early church spread like crazy during an unfavorable situation. They didn't spend a lot of time whining and complaining about it. They just got busy doing what they're called to do. Now, we need to know about it, and we need to see what can be done. And I'm assuming that, if the Biden administration even attempted to do this, it's going to be fought, it's going to be appealed, and ultimately make it to the Supreme Court, and we'll have to see. But that's a long ways down the road. But right now, you need to at least be aware of this. All right, there you have it. I'll stop right there. Hopefully, that was a lot of information. I know that was a lot of reading, but hopefully you found some of that beneficial. And at least now you can look into it. And now you have a place to go, theologycentral.net, where you can read the document for yourself that was produced by the Human Rights Campaign, and you can see what was actually in it. All right, I'll stop right there. If you have any questions, email me, newsif@yahoo.com, newsif@yahoo.com. All right, God bless.